How's it going, everyone? This is Rosalind, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ashura Encounter. This is the latest new Esper that just came out. It works very similar to Bahamut in that it has like a whole little area you have to go through and complete each of the zones to unlock the actual fight itself, and then you get the fighter. We're not going to be dealing with any of that. We're just going to take a look at the fight itself, and here is my party setup I used. As you can see, I'm making sure that I'm bringing Fenrir and Anima. This is for the missions. And I have a 2 healer setup, though one of my healers is more for completing the missions. So let's go ahead and get into it. For our tank here, we are using Wilhelm, and this is how I have him set up. I have safety bit on. I'm not sure if this really works or not. I've been told it does, but I haven't really seen any instance where I think it really would work, because the only instant death that I've found in the fight, you get a dispel as part of it, but I still have it on just in case. Another important thing is to have the 100% draw attacks on him, so I have that set up. And then I also have him with Calamity Border. This is pretty standard recently, but you want to be preventing some magic damage that's going to come in the fight that is non-preventable. The main elements you want to be raising also is going to be Ice, Water, Earth, though mine is low, and Light. You don't need to raise them all that high, but you do want to have some, as much as you can in these different elements, and I'll get to why that is when we get into the actual fight itself. Okay, and then my debuffer is Bart. This is how I have Bart set up. His whole thing in this fight is to basically debuff the boss. He's going to be using Wild Smile and then White Cordon, just for some utility. I also have him set up with a Dark Weapon. This is to deal dark damage to the boss when needed, specifically just for the missions, but he also can deal dark damage in the form of the Anima Esper, which I have equipped to him. Axter is my main damage dealer. This is how I have him set up. Maneater, again, boosting stats, or his elemental resistances. Pretty standard. I have Eris. This is how I have her set up. You don't need her to be anywhere near this well geared. Just, again, mainly the elements you want, and you'll be good to go. And then, kind of the key to the fight, to getting it done in a timely manner, is Rem. This is how I have her set up here. Now, a few key points that I have is I have her with Holy Wand. This is to give her the ability to use light damage. And then I have her with Acid Rain. This gives her access to water as well, and this is also very important for sub 50% on the boss as well. And then naturally she has access to all the other elements you need to deal with the boss, and I'll explain why you need to deal those elements when we get into the fight, because that's kind of the whole main deal about the gimmick. So with that said, that's the party setup, and let's just go ahead and get into the fight, where I'll explain the gimmick and how everything works. Okay, and here we are in the fight. So as you can see here on the first turn, the boss puts up a damage reduction buff on itself. This is a physical and magical buff, and it reduces damage by a lot. I'm assuming it's probably close to like 99%. So there's really no point in these first few turns dealing damage for the sake of dealing damage, but I do end up using the Axters to chain to build limit break gauge and Esper gauge and whatnot. But for this first turn, the main thing I'm doing is debuffing the boss, putting up cover with Wilhelm, and putting re-raise on Wilhelm and Rem, and then using Rem's cooldown to just completely fill up the Esper gauge at least one time. Just helps get that out of the fight quickly. The main sort of gimmick in this fight that you're going to have to worry about is you're going to want to be looking at the top of the screen. Basically, you're looking for one of a few prompts. These are going to be telling you that the boss has entered a certain stance. And based on what stance the boss is in, you need to take certain actions in order to either completely negate any damage coming at you, or greatly reduce the amount of damage that's going to be thrown at you on the following turn. So, as for what you're going to be looking for here, I'm going to be putting these in the description so you can look at them. But one of them, the main one you really want to focus on, is one called Mikiri no Kamae. And what this is whenever the boss uses the stance on your following turn, you do not want to attack her at all. If you do, she will retaliate with a very, very strong AoE physical damage attack that cannot be covered. It will almost certainly wipe your party. The other ones to be looking out for is she has 4 different elemental stances, and they consist of 2 different elements each. So you have an ice fire, a lightning water, an earth wind, and a light dark. Now these you don't really have to be paying as much attention to the top of the screen. You can see exactly which one is coming if you look at the prompt at the top of the screen, but you can also check the buffs on the boss and see if she has any elemental resistance buffs. If she does, that's the stance she's in. Now when this happens, you need to hit her on your turn with one of those 2 elements. So if she puts up the fire ice stance, you need to deal fire damage or ice damage to her. If you don't, on the following turn you're going to get hit with 2 different attacks, a fire and an ice attack, for instance with this ability. If you hit her with either one of those 2 elements though, you will only get attacked with one of those abilities. And the ability you get attacked with is AoE magic, and it's non-coverable. So basically, regardless of which element you hit her with to seal half of the ability, you will get hit with the exact same element coming back. What I mean is for example, again using the fire ice stance, if you hit her with ice, she will still retaliate the next turn with ice. However, she won't retaliate with fire because you did one of those 2 elements to her. So the elements you're going to get retaliated against are the main elements that you need to be focusing if you're giving your characters elemental resistance gear that I was talking about earlier on when explaining characters. So that's, you know, ice, water, earth, and light. Those are the main ones. So basically what I do here in this fight is whenever I see one of those elemental stances come in, I make sure that I switch Wilhelm off of AoE cover and guarding, and I have him use Calamity Border. This helps reduce the incoming damage on the following turn. Now, once you get to turn 5, the damage reduction buffs on the boss will fall off, and you're going to be able to start dealing more damage to the boss. She will put those damage reduction buffs up periodically throughout the fight, but when she puts them up again, I believe they only last 1 turn each time. So for the first 50% of the boss's HP, you're really just going to be watching to see what stances she's in, make sure you're hitting the correct element to make sure that you are not taking as much damage. You're going to want to be keeping AoE cover up with Wilhelm to again reduce damage coming at your party, and you're going to want to make sure that Wilhelm always has re-raise on him just in case he takes too much damage and dies. Or not just Wilhelm, any AoE cover tank you decide to use. Anyone would work fine. I'm just using Wilhelm. Once you get close to 50%, you want to be wary because you're going to want to be blinding the boss. Once you cross 50%, the boss is going to use one more stance. And this stance, I believe it only enters it once, but she enters it right after you hit the 50% threshold. If you do not blind the boss, you will die. It's basically 100% guaranteed the boss will use, I think it's an AoE non-coverable physical attack. It's very hard, and I believe it also comes with a dispel. Though that part of it I could be wrong on. However, if you blind the boss, you won't take the damage. So just make sure you are able to blind the boss. I believe the easiest way to do this while also is to use Acid Rain. And I mean, obviously there's other ways to use blind, but Acid Rain is also just good for this fight as it gives you wind and water damage for sealing abilities. So you just want to be using that anyways. The next thing to watch out for is when you hit 20%. Once you hit 20% and below on the boss's HP, she's going to stop using AoE attacks, and she's going to start using a single target dispel and death. I believe it's either death or it's a really high damage hit that you basically can't negate. But it's killed my Wilhelm multiple times, so just watch out for that. Make sure you have re-raise on him. This is also the reason why I have him with 100% provoke attacks, is to just help mitigate the impact it has to the rest of the party. And other than that, there's not a whole lot. She will put up permanent damage reduction buffs under 20%, unlike the 99% that lasts for a turn or two, or the 4 turns at the beginning. These will last until the boss dies, but they aren't nearly as strong, so you don't have to really worry about the ones that go up after 20%. You can just damage through them, but you can't dispel them, and while I'm thinking about it, you also can't dispel the ones she puts up throughout the rest of the fight. But speaking of also dispel, you do, whenever she buffs herself with attack and magic, you do want to dispel that, and whenever you're getting ready to attack her, you do want to go ahead and dispel any defensive buffs she places on herself as well. So, hope this helps, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below.